What's the easiest way to learn the bass neck? Now, many bass players out there will think that they need to learn tons and tons of scale shapes or tons and tons of different patterns in order to do this. But what they don't realize is there is actually one really simple trick they can use, which will help them map out the entire neck. It's incredibly easy, and all they need to do it is to learn 3 shapes. So in this lesson, if you give me a quick moment, what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you what this trick is. I'm going to show you how it unlocks the bass neck. And I'm also going to show you why you only need to know these 3 scale shapes. So if you're not familiar with me, my name is Hugh Richardson. I'm a professional bass player. I also do lessons on this channel. If you are watching live, by all means say hi, drop a message in the live comments. And also if there's anything that you don't understand or you want me to go over again, please just let me know in the live comments. I can put your questions up on screen here live. And yeah, we can talk through all the answers there. So what is this trick that is going to help us map out the entire bass neck using only 3 shapes? Well, it's actually something that's hiding in plain sight. This is really, really incredible. It's something that a lot of bass players know about. It's something that a lot of bass players use pretty much every single day. And they might not realize it, but it's one of the most basic things they know that's the key to learning the entire bass neck with just 3 shapes. So, okay, live comments. It's sunny in Miami, Florida. There we go from Andy. Andy, my man, how are you? It's a pleasure to have you on the stream. Sunny in Miami, Florida. Unfortunately, it's not quite so sunny here in the UK, but I guess that's my fault for living in the UK. Cool. So, okay, what is this trick? Well, let me demonstrate it to you, and I'm sure you're going to notice it. So I'm just going to stand up and do this, get the bass in shot. So for those of you watching live, yes, you did see that correctly. I did just do the exact same thing that most bass players do when they tune. That is that when we play one note on the bass, if we want to get the same note, we just go up a string and back 5 frets. This is the trick, but exactly how will this help us map out the bass neck? Because most people just use this for tuning. What they don't really use it for is for mapping out the neck. So how is this going to be useful? How is this going to make sense? Well, check this out. If we were to apply that same logic to something really basic, something that we know really, really well, so something like our bog standard major scale shape. Again, I'll stand up so you can see this. You can see that with that scale shape, it's going to restrict us to a certain part of the neck. So I was playing it up around the 8th fret, and I'll put this back up on screen here. So I was using this scale shape here. Now, this is what I like to call a major scale on top of the root. And I say that because my root note is here on this C. And you can see in terms of where all the other notes are located, they are located in and around that same area. You know, the root note is very much quite central to the shape. So I like to think of it as being on top of in that respect. However, if I was to take this 5 fret trick that we talked about and start taking each of these individual notes, moving it up a string and back 5 frets, I would start to map out a very, very different shape. So you see here, if I was to take, I'll do it this way so we can get it all on there. That is that D, 10th fret of the E string. If I go up a string to the A string, back 5 frets, that goes to the 5th fret of the A string. If I do the same thing with a load of the other notes, I can maneuver the shape to get something different. And one of the different shapes I can create is this shape, what I like to call a major scale that's behind the root. So you can see here again, that C in the bottom right-hand corner is the same root note, but I've just shifted all these other ones using that 5 fret trick so they can all go back behind the root. So if I go to my first shape, that same C there has got all these ones in front of the root. My next shape has got that same C there going all the way back behind the root. So you can kind of see where this is going. So again, I'll just stand up and give you a quick demonstration between that. Here we go. I'll get myself back on screen. So if I just move this away here like that, so you can still see my fretboard, what I've got here is I've got one shape on top of the root, and that is all located in one position of the neck, just there. But if I start playing my behind the root shape, I play the same notes but move through a different location of the neck. However, it doesn't have to stop there because I can construct even more shapes using this 5-fret trick. If I go back here, we've seen behind the root. I'd also have what I like to call in front of the root. So there, this time, that C is in the same position here. That C bottom left is my root note this time. And this time, instead of putting notes going up a string and back 5 frets, what I've done is I've taken the notes that should be over here and reversed the trick. So this time, down a string and up 5 frets. So if I go back, that E that's not changed its position, so that E that is there in the on top of the root shape and is there in our behind the root shape, I can move it up a string and forward 5 frets to move it there. So again, in terms of how that looks on the bass neck, here we go. Sorry, get myself on full screen. So that E that is there, 7th fret of the A string, I can go down a string, up 5 frets, so it becomes 12th fret of the E string, and I can do that to all my all the notes in this shape until I get something that looks like this scale shape that's on screen now with you. So this would be my in front of the root scale shape because, as you can see, all of the notes are located in front of the notes, in front of the root note on the neck. So that would look like this. So as you can see there, so this is how this 5-fret trick is going to unlock a great part of the neck. And I just want to show you how much territory it's unlocked, because even just this on its own is a fantastic exercise, fantastic technique exercise. You got this on top of the root shape in one area of the neck. You've got a behind the root shape from the same part of the neck, starting from the same note, but going in a different a different direction on the neck. And then you've got in front of the root, covering different territory yet again. So if you were to just go up and down those 3 scale shapes, that would be a fantastic technique exercise in and of itself. It gets you around most of the neck. However, there is still one problem, which is that there are still very large parts of the neck that haven't really been touched, that are completely, I don't want to say unexcavated, unexplored, should we say. So as you can see, if I hold up my bass neck here, we didn't really do anything down in this region of the neck. We didn't do anything up in this region of the neck here. So what do we do about those parts? How can we use this information to map out those extra parts of the neck that are missing? Well, really simple. Really simple. One of the things that's really quite deceptively, I don't want to say easy about playing an instrument like the bass, but is we have this kind of assumption as bass players that when we learn shapes, every single shape that we learn is unique and every single shape is different. However, that's kind of not really the case. If we study these 3 shapes that we've just created a little bit more closely, what we start to see is that there is actually a significant amount of overlap from one shape to the next. For example, if you take a look at these 4 notes here, C, E, F, and A, those 4 there are the same in this on top of the root shape as they are here in this behind the root shape. C, E, F, and A. They're in the same place. So same thing here. We can see again as I play through. There's our C, F, C, E, F, A. And then again, so that's in my on top of the root shape. and then my behind the root shape, C, F, C, E, F, A, all in the same place. Now, there's overlap between so many of these different shapes, but because so many of these different shapes exist in different places on the bass neck, what we can actually start to do is to stitch them all together. So all we've got to really look out for is where different octaves and different root notes of a particular scale are on the neck. And if I go through my slides again to this next one, creating these three shapes is how we unlock the entire neck. I should have flashed that up earlier, excuse me. Here's how. This is how. So this is a complete map of the neck, mapped out with these three shapes all stitched together. So you can see here at the 8th fret, I've got that C. Now, if it's got the red circle, it's on part of the on top of the root shape. If it's got the green outline, it's in the behind the root shape. If it's got the blue cross, it's in front of the root shape. And you can see just how many of these overlap into multiple shapes. So there is my C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's my kind of classic on top of the root shape. But you can see as I go all the way up that, or if I go all the way back another one, for example, the behind the root shape, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, by the time I get up to this C here, I could actually descend through my on top of the root shape and end up back at a root note over here. I can traverse huge parts of the neck just by using these few shapes. So I want to put this up on screen just so you can see me kind of go through this. This is a fantastic technique exercise. By the way, before I forget, if anybody is interested, technique workshop that I've done, you can get, there's a link to my technique workshop in the description down below. I'm sure there's a discount code down there if you want to check it out too. But getting back to this, check this out. I'll start from this C here. I'll just move this across so you can see a little bit better. C, I'm going to go for my behind the root shape to start with. I've got up to a root note there, so I can switch to a different shape and just descend through that. I'm going to go through my on top of the root shape. Now from here, what I could do is I might switch again. I'm going to go for my in front of the root shape. That gets me back up to that same root note. But here, if I wanted to give myself a bit more of a challenge, I can say, okay, well, I'm going to start and go up as far as I can through my, let's say, my in front of the root shape. That might get me up to this E before I've got to change position. Then I'm going to go back through my behind the root shape, keep going through that, and then until I get back here. And I can keep going all the way through this as long as I want. It is a fantastic exercise. And of course, that's just one key. You know, if you really want to challenge yourself, take this to the nth extreme, give yourself a real workout. Of course, you can go through this in multiple keys. That is how you can, in my opinion, get through the entire bass neck with just three shapes, learn every single note on the bass with just three shapes, as it says in the thumbnail. And for me, that is one of the easiest ways to master the neck. However, there is still a couple of problems you might want to consider. People will say, okay, well, this is just one scale shape. You know, how do you figure this for modes? How do you figure this for natural minor, for harmonic minor, all these other things? What you really want to take away from this is that the principle of trying to find the overlap between different scale shapes is the thing to take away here. Yes, basically any scale on the bass could be reconfigured using this 5-fret rule, but the key to really learning the neck is trying to find where the overlap in these things are, because that's going to give you almost like little bits of geography on the neck that you can hone in on and really start to use and put together. So yeah, that's a fantastic way to get around it. Blake Adam. I showed up late. My friend, this will be up as a replay. You can check it out there. This will be on the channel as a replay. But yeah, really, really glad you enjoyed the stream all the same. By the way, if anyone does have any questions on this or if anything doesn't make sense, feel free to put them in the live chat. Or if anybody is watching the replay, of course, put your questions down in the comments and I will get to you. Okay, Blake, I was going to ask about the 5 fret, but we'll watch the replay. Yeah, watch the replay, man. It's a very, very useful thing to do. I guarantee you already know how to do it. But I guess it's just a question of seeing the kind of potential that that has when it comes to unlocking the neck. Okay, so that's all well and good. If you've got this far and anything doesn't make sense or you're struggling with the scale patterns, then what I would suggest you do, this is definitely for people watching the replay, is click on this video up here and watch that. That is going to teach you about one of the best ways to learn scales and make sure that they actually stick in your mind. Figure I'd make life easier versus repeating it for all of us. You're a good man. You're a good man, Blake. Thank you so much. Don't forget to check out the technique workshop that is linked below in the description. And I will see you guys on another video real soon. Take care.